This is a reminder of how you do an SATB harmonisation composition. What I want to make sure is that I have with me my notes on the treble and bass staves, so that I'm getting the notes correct for the treble stave and for the bass stave as well. Also, what I want to have is the key of G major chords 1, 4, 5 and the secondary chords 2, 3 and 6. So I'm going to have them over to the side where I can see them. The first question we ask is, what is the note that we're trying to harmonise? This note is a G, so I can look over and see what chords have a G in them, and because it's the first chord in the piece, I'm obviously going to choose chord 1. So the first thing I do is write down chord number 1 at the bottom, and then I have to choose a note for the bass, tenor and alto parts. So normally the bass gets the root note, which is G. What other notes have I got to find? I've got to find a B and a D. So I've got a G here, somebody needs the B, somebody needs the D. So I'm going to give the altos the D and the tenors the B. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer here, you just need to choose and spread the notes out as you wish. The next note we have here is a G, so the first question we ask is, what's the note we're trying to harmonise? It's a G. What chord do we want to harmonise it with? And I'm going to choose chord 4, because that's got a G in it. Put it in chord 4. And I'm going to give the bass line the root of the chord, which in this case is a C. So the basses get the C. So I've got a C and a G. What am I still missing? C and a G. I've got an E to find, and probably another C, because I'm going to double the C. So who gets the E? Well, the altos could get the E because that's very close to where they are already. So I'm going to give the altos the E, which leaves the tenors getting the C, because I'm going to have doubling of the C. There's a C there. So we've got C, C, E and G, and that's chord 4. Okay, the next note we're going to move on to is this one here, so we have to find out what note is it we're trying to harmonise, and it's the B. Next question is, what chord are we going to harmonise it with, or what contains a B? We could have chord 1, or we could have chord 6, or we could have chord 3. Now I'm going to go for chord 6. Okay, so let's give the bass part the root note, which in this case is the E. So the bass goes up to here. So I've now got an E, I've got a B, so what note are we missing? We're missing the G. So let's give the G to the altos. And what note do we have missing? We've got an E, a B and a G already, so we have to choose to double one of the notes. I'm going to double the B this time, which is the last note in the chord, because that means the tenor's only going down one wee space. Okay, so that's that harmonised. Moving on to the next note, it's a C, so that's the note we have to harmonise. What chord are we going to use? I think I'll be using chord 2, that contains a C, so I'm going to put down chord 2 here. What's the root of chord 2? It's an A, so let's have the basses on an A. Now they don't always have to sing the root note, but for this purpose, early on we're going to have them singing the root note. The next thing we have to do is find out what other notes we're missing. We've got an A, C, so the E has to go somewhere. Who are we going to give the E to? Well, we'll give it to the altos, because it's not very far away from where they are. So I've got an A, C, E. What note could we double? We could double the A, and that means the tenors are just coming down one step to there. And finally, for this exercise, let's harmonise this note here. It's the D. What note do we have that's got D in it? Let's harmonise it with chord 5. So again, put chord 5 down there, give the root note to the basses. So I've got D, D, somebody needs to do the F sharp. We're going to give that to the altos because they're pretty close there. And the A is already in the tenor note. So we have the first 5 notes harmonised, and all you need to do is use that same logic to carry on the rest. Don't forget, we've got a couple of favourite endings that you might like to use. a chord 2 to chord 5 to chord 1 at the end of a line, end of every 4 bars. That's a nice ending to have. A wee hint at the end of the second line, try and finish on chord 5, that would be a nice one. You could also have a 1 5 1 ending. That's also a really nice one to have as well, so look out for the opportunity to do any of those. Make sure you start your composition at the very beginning on chord 1, and make sure you end your composition on chord 1. And good luck with that.